Every mistake isn't a wrong turn, sometimes it's the universe steering you exactly where you need to be. The thundering crash that paralyzed Emma Whitfield was nothing compared to the silence that followed. 6 months later, she sat alone in the corner of her father's company gala, watching life unfold before her like a movie she was no longer part of. Until a paint-stained stranger in a borrowed suit stumbled into the seat across from her, changing both their lives forever. If you've ever believed in second chances or fate's mysterious ways, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us how life's wrong turns often lead us exactly where we're meant to be. The Donovan Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the laughter of Boston's elite. Men in tailored suits and women draped in designer gowns floated across marble floors that cost more than Jake Sullivan had made in the last 3 years combined. Jake tugged at his collar, feeling the borrowed suit tighten around his neck like a vice. His best friend Mike had insisted he'd blend right in. "You clean up nice," Mike had said, lending him the suit. "Besides, they're serving top-shelf liquor and gourmet food. After the month you've had, you deserve a night of luxury." What Mike hadn't mentioned was that the networking mixer was actually Whitfield Enterprises' annual charity gala, invitation only. Jake had already made it past the distracted receptionist by mumbling something about being with the Collins party. Now he just needed to find a quiet corner to enjoy some free food before sneaking out. His fingers, still bearing traces of engine grease beneath the nails despite his thorough scrubbing, trembled slightly as he balanced a plate of hors d'oeuvres. "Table 19, he muttered, scanning the room. "Where the hell is table 19? The sea of numbered tables swam before him. A waiter brushed past, nearly knocking his plate from his hands. Jake stepped sideways to avoid a collision and spotted an empty table in a shadowed corner. Only one occupant sat there, a young woman in a wheelchair, her back to the crowd, gazing out at the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. Jake glanced at the table number 9, close enough. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, already pulling out a chair. "This place is a madhouse." She turned, and Jake froze. Even in the dim light, her beauty hit him like a physical force. Dark hair fell in waves around a heart-shaped face, and her eyes, deep blue and penetrating, studied him with unmistakable amusement. "You're at the wrong table," she said, her voice soft but clear. Jake felt heat rising to his face. "I'm sorry, But please," she continued, gesturing to the chair he'd already half pulled out, "stay anyway. I could use the company." Jake hesitated, then sat. Up close, he could see the delicate silver bracelet on her wrist engraved with medical information, the slight pallor beneath her olive skin, and the fine throw blanket arranged over her legs. "I'm Emma," she said. "Jake Sullivan." "So, Jake Sullivan, who are you hiding from?" He choked on his champagne. "That obvious?" A small smile played at her lips. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else. Plus, you've got engine grease under your fingernails, and you keep tugging at your collar like it's strangling you." Jake looked down at his hands, mortified. He'd scrubbed them raw, but some stains were stubborn. "Mechanic," he admitted. "I own a small garage in Dorchester." "That explains the hands. But not why you're at a Whitfield Enterprises gala." Jake hesitated, then decided on honesty. "My friend Mike thought I needed a night out. He didn't mention it was this fancy or exclusive." "So you crashed it?" "Not intentionally. I think I got lucky at the door. The receptionist was dealing with some crisis. I was planning to grab some food and disappear." To his surprise, Emma laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. "That's the most honest thing anyone said to me all night." Jake relaxed slightly, taking a sip of his champagne. "What about you? Why are you sitting alone in the corner? Not enjoying the party?" Emma's smile faded. She gestured toward her wheelchair. "Most people don't know how to talk to me anymore. They see the chair first, then they see me. If they see me at all. The bitterness in her voice was subtle but unmistakable. What happened? Jake asked, then immediately backpedaled. I'm sorry, that's none of my business. Car accident, Emma said simply. 6 months ago. Spinal cord injury at T10. She gestured vaguely toward her midsection. I have some movement and sensation, but... She shrugged. The doctors say I might walk again with intensive therapy. Might being the operative word. Jake nodded, unsure what to say. He'd never been good at offering comfort. Anyway, Emma continued, these corporate events were tedious before. Now they're nearly unbearable. All those pitying looks and awkward conversations. She gestured around the room. At least from this corner, I can people watch. Jake followed her gaze across the ballroom. Anyone interesting caught your eye? The couple by the bar are having an affair, Emma said, pointing discreetly. He keeps touching the small of her back when he thinks no one is looking. The man near the stage is about to propose, he's patted his jacket pocket 17 times in the last hour. And the woman in red by the entrance is planning to quit tomorrow, she's drinking like there's no tomorrow and avoiding her boss. Jake stared at her, impressed. You got all that just from watching? When you can't dance, you find other ways to entertain yourself. She turned those penetrating blue eyes back to him. So, Jake the mechanic, what's your story? Why did your friend think you needed a night out? Jake hesitated, swirling the champagne in his glass. Normally he kept his personal life private, but something about Emma's direct gaze made him want to be honest. My wife died 3 years ago, he said quietly. Breast cancer. Left me with our daughter, Lily. She's 8 now. He took a breath. Last month, I almost lost the garage. Medical bills, you know. I've been working double shifts to keep it afloat. Mike thought I needed a break. Emma's face softened. I'm sorry about your wife. Jake nodded, the familiar ache in his chest present but duller than it once was. Me too. Lily looks just like her. Is she with a babysitter tonight? My mother-in-law. Lily loves her grandmother's Friday night sleepovers. They bake cookies and watch Disney movies until they fall asleep on the couch. A genuine smile crossed his face as he thought of his daughter, the center of his world. She sounds wonderful, Emma said. She is. Smart as a whip and stubborn as hell. Wants to be a mechanic like her dad. She already knows how to change oil and replace air filters. Pride warmed his voice. My little grease monkey. Emma laughed again, and Jake found himself enjoying the sound. She sounds like quite the character. Definitely. And a handful. Especially since. A commotion near the entrance interrupted him. A distinguished-looking man with silver hair was scanning the room with obvious concern, surrounded by several anxious-looking staff members. Emma sighed. And here comes the search party. Search party? My father, Emma explained, nodding toward the silver-haired man. Richard Whitfield. Jake nearly choked on his champagne. Whitfield? As in? Whitfield Enterprises. Yes. She grimaced apologetically. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Jake's mind reeled as he connected the dots. Richard Whitfield, CEO of one of the largest technology corporations in New England. Which made Emma. You're Emma Whitfield. She nodded. And I just admitted to crashing your father's gala. Technically, it's my father's company's gala, she corrected with a hint of mischief in her eyes. And don't worry. Your secret's safe with me. Before Jake could respond, Richard Whitfield spotted them and strode toward their table, relief evident on his face. Emma, there you are. We've been looking everywhere. He glanced at Jake with undisguised curiosity. I don't believe we've met. Jake stood awkwardly, extending his hand. Jake Sullivan, sir. Jake's a mechanic, Dad, Emma interjected before her father could ask further questions. He owns Sullivan's garage in Dorchester. He was just telling me about his daughter. Richard shook Jake's hand firmly, his expression warming slightly at the mention of a daughter. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Sullivan. Likewise, sir. An uncomfortable silence fell. Jake cleared his throat. I should probably get going. It was nice meeting you, Emma. He turned to Richard. You too, Mr. Whitfield. Actually, Emma said quickly, Jake was about to escort me to the dessert table. Weren't you, Jake? Jake blinked in surprise. I was? Yes, Emma insisted, her eyes pleading. The chocolate fountain. Remember? Jake caught on. Right. The chocolate fountain. Richard looked between them, clearly puzzled but unwilling to contradict his daughter. Well, I'll leave you to it, then. Emma, don't forget we're presenting the Charitable Foundation Awards in 20 minutes. I won't, Dad. As Richard walked away, Jake raised an eyebrow at Emma. Chocolate fountain? She smiled apologetically. Sorry for volunteering you, but you looked ready to bolt, and I'm not ready for our conversation to end. You'd rather talk to a grease monkey than mingle with Boston's elite? Absolutely. Her eyes sparkled with genuine interest. Everyone else here wants something from my father. You're the only person who's talked to me like a normal human being in months. Jake found himself smiling back. Well, in that case, would you like to see this chocolate fountain I've heard so much about? I'd love to. As Jake positioned himself behind her wheelchair, Emma glanced up at him. Fair warning, my father will probably have someone running a background check on you by morning. Jake laughed as he navigated through the crowd. He'll be disappointed. The most exciting thing they'll find is a parking ticket from 2018 that I'm still contesting. For the first time in years, Jake felt a spark of something he'd almost forgotten, connection. And as Emma laughed at his jokes and shared her own, he realized he'd been starving for conversation that didn't revolve around engines or school lunches. Little did he know that this accidental meeting would be the first chapter in a story neither of them could have imagined. The following Tuesday afternoon, Jake was elbow-deep in the engine of a 2010 Toyota Camry when his office phone rang. He ignored it, focusing on the seized belt tensioner that had been fighting him all morning. Jake, called Donnie, his one and only employee, from the front office. Phone for you. Take a message. Jake called back, grunting as he applied more force to the stubborn bolt. Says it's important. Something about a Rolls-Royce. Jake sighed, wiped his hands on a shop rag, and made his way to the office, leaving greasy fingerprints on the doorframe as he entered. Sullivan's garage, he answered gruffly. Mr. Sullivan? This is Patricia Stevens, executive assistant to Richard Whitfield. Jake froze, the memory of Saturday night's gala rushing back. Yes? Mr. Whitfield would like to know if you're available to service his daughter's vehicle. It's a 1967 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow that's been experiencing some issues. Jake blinked in surprise. Sullivan's garage wasn't exactly known for handling luxury classics. There are specialty shops that deal specifically with vintage Rolls. Ms. Whitfield specifically requested you, the assistant interrupted. She mentioned meeting you recently and was impressed by your expertise. Jake couldn't help but smile at the obvious confusion in the woman's voice. Emma had clearly not explained the circumstances of their meeting. I see, he said, trying to sound professional. I'd be happy to take a look at it. Excellent. Can Mr. Whitfield's driver bring the vehicle by tomorrow morning? Jake glanced at his appointment book, already filled for the next day. I can make room at 10 a.m. Perfect. Ms. Whitfield may accompany the driver to explain the issues in person. Will that be a problem? Not at all, Jake replied, surprised at how much the prospect of seeing Emma again pleased him. After hanging up, he stared at the phone for a long moment. What was that about? Donnie asked, curiosity evident in his voice. Apparently, we're working on a 67 rolls tomorrow. Donnie's eyes widened. A rolls? Here? Since when do we service cars worth more than the building? Since the owner's daughter sat at a table with me at a fancy party, Jake muttered, already heading back to the Toyota. What? Donnie called after him. Nothing. Let's get this Camry done so we can clear space for tomorrow. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Jake found himself researching 1967 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadows until well past midnight. If he was going to work on one of the most prestigious cars ever made, he was going to be prepared. The next morning, precisely at 10 a.m., a gleaming black Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow pulled into the Sullivans' garage parking lot. Jake had cleared a space in the cleanest bay and even persuaded Donnie to sweep the floor, twice. The uniformed driver exited first, then moved to the rear passenger door. Jake's heart did an unexpected leap when Emma emerged, maneuvering skillfully from the car to her wheelchair. Good morning, she called, wheeling herself toward him with practiced ease. Today she wore simple jeans and a blue sweater that matched her eyes, her dark hair pulled back in a casual ponytail, a stark contrast to the elegant evening wear from the gala. Morning, Jake replied, suddenly conscious of the grease stains on his coveralls. Nice car. Emma smiled, patting the Rolls' glossy fender. She was my grandfather's. Dad kept it after he passed away, but it mostly sat in the garage until recently. Her expression grew more serious. After my accident, Dad had it modified with hand controls so I could drive it. Jake nodded, understanding dawning. But it's giving you trouble? It keeps stalling at intersections. The last mechanic said something about the carburetor, but his fix didn't help. She looked up at him, a challenge in her eyes. Think you can figure it out? I can try. Jake moved toward the hood. Mind if I take a look? For the next hour, Jake methodically examined the engine while Emma watched from her wheelchair, occasionally asking surprisingly technical questions. Jake found himself impressed by her knowledge. You know a lot about cars for someone who doesn't work on them, he commented as he inspected the carburetor. Emma smiled wistfully. My grandfather taught me. He believed every person should understand how engines work. He said it builds character. Smart man. He was, Emma agreed. He built Whitfield Enterprises from a small electronics repair shop into what it is today. Dad expanded it into software and technology, but Grandpa was always happiest when he was fixing things with his hands. Jake nodded, recognizing a kindred spirit in Emma's grandfather. I think I found your problem, he said, pointing to a small component. The accelerator pump diaphragm is torn. When you stop at an intersection and then try to accelerate, it can't deliver the extra fuel needed. Emma leaned forward in her chair, trying to see. Can you fix it? Parts for these old Rolls can be tricky to find, but I know someone who specializes in vintage British cars. Might take a few days. Whatever it takes, Emma said. This car is my independence. The simple statement carried such weight that Jake found himself nodding solemnly. I'll make it my priority. As he wiped his hands and closed the hood, Jake noticed Emma glancing around the garage with interest. Her eyes lingered on the wall of photographs next to his office door, mostly pictures of completed restorations, but interspersed with several of Lily at various ages. Is that your daughter? Emma asked, wheeling closer to examine a recent school photo. That's my Lily, Jake confirmed, pride evident in his voice. She has your eyes, Emma observed. And your smile. But her mother's spirit, Jake added softly. Fierce and unstoppable. Emma turned to look at him, something unreadable in her expression. Wow.